And good morning. Thank you for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I'm so grateful for everyone who is joining us on X, Facebook, and YouTube Live. So this is Tell It All Tuesday, and what I typically like to do on this day is really get into some stories that you may or may not have heard, right? And we're just going to tell it all and tell it like it is. So, as promised, we are going to start with Return to the Land. Now, this is just a video from the person who started Return to the Land. And there are a lot of articles out there going on, talking about different things about him. But I wanted you guys to just hear the video from his perspective. And, actually, he's talking about an article. He's going to go a little bit into his past. And let's just check it out.
A Jewish journalist released an article today attacking my character, trying to smear me. The intention was clearly to call Return to the Land as a whole in question. Return to the Land has been very successful in recent weeks, promoting the idea of peaceful white intentional communities as a solution to our concern about our own preservation as a people. We want our way of life preserved despite changing demographics. We want safe communities for ourselves, and none of that has changed. All of that still applies. I will say some of the things in that article were true, but we should not fall for the same tactics again and again. The way that these facts were portrayed and added on to by unsubstantiated claims from unnamed persons, she was trying to paint me in the worst possible light so that you would lose faith in me and then return to the land by extension. Now, I've said many times, I didn't particularly want to be the president of Return to the Land. The core legal framework wasn't really my idea. I was in the right place at the right time to help. And I was asked to help this project move along. I was a co-founder. I was involved from the get-go, but it's not my thing. So even if I am as despicable a person as this reporter is trying to paint me to be, I would be happy to step down and have someone else who's more qualified to be the president of RTTL do that. I've said many times, I don't even want to be the president. But regarding the specific claims that were made, she tried to paint it like until recently, I was making explicit content online, doing webcamming, and that is not true. Over 10 years ago, in my early 20s, for about a year, a little less than a year, I did make explicit content with my wife at the time. That's true. And I wasn't a Christian. I didn't have the values I have today. I had some similar ideas. Some of what I believe today, I believed back then. But I was lost, like many young people are still lost today, because I didn't have that grounding in traditional morality. I wasn't raised in a strong Christian household. We attended church occasionally, but where was that moral foundation? I questioned all sorts of things. That's part of how you get to fringe politics too, is you're inclined to question prevailing norms. I extended that wider than many people, and I engaged in pretty degenerate behavior in my early 20s. I was doing drugs at the time. I was just not in a good place. So for the last decade, I have recognized the failures that my lack of foundational values led me to. And I don't want to see my children and other white young people go down those same paths. So I did make mistakes in my life, serious mistakes that I regret. And now a Jewish journalist is trying to dig up things from more than a decade ago to question whether what I'm doing now is in earnest. Her goal is to make it look like I'm doing all of this as some kind of grift, as some kind of trick. I mean, you can come out here and see what we're doing. We are actually building communities. I've actually organized this next phase, getting new communities established in new places. I'm constantly on the phone. I'm constantly responding to messages. Just ordinary people, media. I've done what I could since I stopped working full time. And before that, I donated countless hours trying to promote this cause. Not because I thought I was a perfect person and moral exemplar that everyone else should follow, but because I believe in the cause. We deserve our own spaces. If we voluntarily want to perpetuate our identity, we should be allowed to do that unmolested. So, yeah, I mean, shockingly, it is true that in my early 20s, I contributed to essentially the porn industry. Private streaming, never something with other people in the room. It was my wife and myself at the time. And it's wrong. But then again, have you ever watched pornography? If you have been a consumer of it, you're also guilty, right? It's not just producers that are guilty, it's also consumers. And part of the Christian religion is recognizing that we have all sinned, right? I never said that I was a perfect person with a perfect history or past. So, judge not, lest ye be judged. He who is without sin, cast the first stone, all the stuff in the Gospels. I do ask for forgiveness. I confessed this actually when I first converted to Christianity on my YouTube channel at the time. So I didn't continue to bring it up over the years. That was an unfortunate episode from my early life that I didn't want to think about, and I've been trying to lead a better life ever since. And imperfectly, and I've made mistakes in recent times too, and maybe they'll try to dig up more mistakes that I've made. But everyone does make mistakes. Now, you can trust the way that this Jewish journalist is trying to paint it and think that I'm a con man or grifter, or you can look at the fruits of what I've done and be willing to talk with me, because that's one thing that I've always done. I've always been receptive to people who wanted to discuss differences of ideas or differences of strategies and plans. I'm still perfectly willing to discuss best practices and how we can all move forward for our greater good. We're not going to have perfect people on our side. Everyone has flaws. Everyone has things they'd rather not have dug up about their past. And that's that. I'm moving ahead as planned, building these communities. And nothing that she alleged in that article is illegal anyway. It's stuff that I did more than 10 years ago when I was a nihilist, an avowed moral nihilist. I was doing acid like every week, once a week. I was doing hallucinogenic drugs. I had been, put on a bad path by my own foolish mistakes in college, but also by the influence of the broader society. And I wasn't inoculated against it. I wasn't protected from it. That's why I want to build these communities, so that we can protect our young people and each other from these corruptive influences in our society. There's nothing contradictory about that. The fact that I made mistakes when I didn't believe in traditional values, and now I'm trying to preach traditional values. You'll find many a preacher with a sordid past. And I'm not even a preacher. I don't try to present myself as a holy man. I do have a deep interest in philosophy in a scholarly way, and I'll deal with sources, and I have a commitment to the Western tradition. And I think that tradition does elevate people in terms of virtue and intellectual ability. And so I'll keep trying to strive to be better and do better. That doesn't mean that I think I'm perfect and always have been perfect. That's just not true. So I haven't done anything like that for more than a decade. And it's also true that, yes, I did get divorced. I had a very difficult marriage, and I don't want to get into that, and it's really no one else's business. I don't believe that divorce is generally good, but in some cases, when a relationship gets to a certain point, when it becomes damaging to the people in it, at least in my case, I did what I could to try to mitigate the harm, and that's where we are. And I don't blame my ex wife for that. I blame, the dynamic that evolved between the two of us, and probably a lot of the negative things. That dynamic started early on in the relationship when we were both living very immoral lifestyles. I I'm trying to move forward in a better way as far as I can. And I'm sorry if anyone feels let down by this, but I'm just another guy. I'm just some person with a realistic human past. I mean, if I looked through your search history, would I find that you've always been a perfect person that made no mistakes? So we have to move forward, understand that we're going to have to meet each other where we are, and look forward to try to do better. And that's really all I have to say on it. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. So this was pretty much put out, I want to say maybe about a week ago. Yeah, or last going into the weekend from last week. At least that's when I came across the video. And people have been just really up in arms about return to the land. And I'm like, what's the big deal? To me, it's just like, they want to be somewhat like the Amish, right? Nobody messes with the Amish. The Amish, they have their own little section, and they are predominantly Caucasian. I haven't seen any black Amish people. I just haven't. That's just not their get down. They are within their own community. They do their thing. Now they do participate in commerce, right? If you live maybe in Indiana, I have an uncle that lives in Elkhart, and Goshen is right next to there, and there is a large Amish community there, and they, you know, sell their milk or eggs or chickens and different things, and that's how they participate in commerce. I mean, I've seen them sometimes go to Big Lots at the time when I was growing up and living with my dad when I was a teenager. So I'm like, okay, but they don't interact with other people outside of their community. So they could be outside, but they're not going to talk to you. Okay. You could wave, they're not going to wave back. That's what I'm saying. Like their stuff is on lock. Okay. They have their community. They um, participate in their community. They communicate with the people in their community. Now, if they go outside of their community and, like I said, they go to a store or do it, they will not talk to you. Okay. I've tried and I got the crazy look and I didn't understand, you know, at the time. And my dad had to explain to me because I had only read about Amish in books. I had never really seen one in person. I was like, wow, this is cool. So of course I wanted to, I had questions. I was like, wow, this is neat. It's like almost like a museum time. My dad was like, please don't talk to them. They can't not talk to you. And even if they wanted to talk to you, they cannot talk to you because that would violate the rules of their community. And I don't think a lot of people know that. Now that's lock. Now, what this gentleman is doing, they're just doing return to the land. They want a segregated community. They want to live amongst themselves. They don't want to be around the greater population because they're like, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on in the greater population that we don't want. So we want to live around our own. We want our children brought up in a certain way around their own people. And that is their right to do that. Like I just explained to you what the Amish do. So I really don't look down on this guy. I know a lot of people are attacking him because here's what might be happening. It's like, okay, I want to live on my own, but I don't like these other people. I don't, and this is just my opinion. I don't think it's the people. I think it's the cultural norms and behaviors that they're trying to separate themselves from, right? They want maybe, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, they just want a more pure society. And I'm not saying pure as in white race. I'm talking about pure as in ethically pure, right? They want to be around people that are like-minded and are like them. And there are people that are like that. They're called enclaves. right? Where people will live around each other purposely, and they may have other people live on the outskirts of them, but they basically centralize in central location themselves in a particular area. So most of their interactions are amongst themselves. Now, are they going to be like the Amish and come outside and not talk to other people? I don't know, because I don't know what the rules of their community is going to be. They could if they wanted to, because that's what the Amish do. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there because everybody's all freaked out about this. I'm like, have you ever come across anybody Amish that's spoken to you? They don't speak to you. But he probably would. I could probably see him and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" He'd be like, "Hey," and I'd keep it moving, and he'd keep it moving unless we decided to engage into any conversation. But if it came down to it, and he's like, if I, decide to live in a community that I'm going to live in, he might not want to live in a community that I'm in because he wants to live around people more so that look like him, first of all, and that have his values. Now, he and I might share the same values, right? Because we're Christians, but he doesn't want to live around me. I'm not offended by it. He wants to live around people that look like him. That's fine. Because here's my thing, just because people look like you, does that really mean they're Christians? I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there. Is everybody in his community required to even be a Christian? I don't know, because that's their business. And I'm not going to be in their business. And I think that's really what I'm getting down to with this situation with Return to the Land. It's their business. Live long and prosper. Have fun with that. And do a good job too. You know what I'm saying? I don't want people, going to your community and suffering. He says they're thriving. He says they're building. Good on them. And continue to do that. And enjoy your life. And that's it. So we covered Return to the Land. It was something I wanted to cover on Tell It All Tuesday. Now, this next video that we're going to get into, this is from North Carolina. There is a representative there. Her last name is Cunningham. I forgot to bring up her webpage, but I'll make sure to look her up and bring that up so we can see her. But she is a state house representative, I think, from North Carolina, and we're gonna watch most of it because this is where they voted, and they actually overrode the veto of the governor of the state in order for ICE agents to actually be able to investigate individuals that are here unlawfully so that they can be detained and removed. So let's get into it.
Criminal Illegal Alien Enforcement Act, the General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Gentleman from Wayne, Representative Bell, is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House do pass House Bill 318, the Criminal Illegal Alien Enforcement Act, notwithstanding the objections of the governor.
The gentleman from Cabarrus, Representative Echeverria, is recognized to debate the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill was heavily debated, and it's really about community safety. House Bill 318 strengthens cooperation between local detention centers and federal immigration authorities when dealing with illegal immigrants who have committed violent crimes, including domestic violence and assault. The bill sets a 48-hour hold and mandates facility notification to ICE within 2 hours of planned release. It's a common sense bill. It's closing loopholes. It's not adding anything new, but simply closing loopholes because we have had just a few sheriffs who did not cooperate with the existing spirit of the law, and I ask for your support.
For what purpose, the lady from Durham, Representative Moore, rise.
To speak on the bill.
Ladies recognized to debate the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we have had a lot of debate on this bill because it's come up for the last couple sessions. And every time it comes up, the screw gets turned tighter. No longer does it have anything to do with the original purpose when it was first introduced about public safety. We have doubled the number of offenses that can now come under this bill. Gift card fraud, is that public safety? People that are detained for simple property crimes can now be subject to this bill.
Okay. Now, this is a representative. I'm sorry to stop the video, you guys, but I had to stop it there because this is where people start, in my opinion, sounding like Satan because you're trying to justify illegal activity. Yes, gift card fraud can cause harm because you had to, steal it. You stole. And she was like, petty theft, that's not real. These are real crimes, ma'am. And this is where we really need to get to. If you steal a stick of gum, you've committed a crime, period. I don't care how little it is because that stick of gum and killing somebody is still a crime. It's still a crime. Some may be considered a misdemeanor. Some can be considered a felony. They're still crimes. And this is the horrible part of a progressive mindset. That person is a progressive. Definitely. Guarantee you. They're not a libertarian. No. They are progressive. This is somebody who wants, everybody to have, ice cream every day. But then when people end up weighing 200 pounds, they're like, well, it's not their fault. We said they could have ice cream every day. You did. But the people that only had it once a week, yeah, they're still walking. They're not 200 pounds. It's really disheartening to see people in our legislature like this individual speaking. Representative Mauricia Mori. She should never be allowed back on the House floor in North Carolina. Vote her out. If you are in North Carolina, shut it down. Because this person believes in criminal activity and is trying to justify it. They're not committing bad crimes. They're committing crimes, ma'am. Credit card fraud, especially gift cards, that is a heinous crime. Because this goes all the way back to, Visa, MasterCard, or whatever. And you're saying that that's okay? What are you doing? What are you doing? And I want to give a shout out to individuals that have joined us here on Unfiltered Vision News. Thank you for reposting the stream. Sway Me and Dr. C and Total Royalty. Thank you guys so much for reposting the stream. And Dr. C says, greetings, founder. Greetings to you too, Dr. C. All right, let's continue with the video.
In practice, too many people have been wrongfully detained or deported by ICE because they are in a local jail unlawfully and by mistake. This has happened in North Carolina. We have had someone in North Carolina who had a work permit, was a PhD, had family and children. ICE questioned him, he was in jail, he was from Greensboro, wrongly detained. We had a bronze medalist in North Carolina, an Olympian, who was detained by ICE at an airport. He was detained for 2 hours without explanation. We have seen what is happening on our televisions with people taken off the sidewalks, put in detention by ICE, who have masks, who their own identities are hidden. We're going too far. What started out to be public safety has now become simply mass deportation. This is the wrong way to go. This violates due process rights. I encourage you to support the governor's veto.
What purpose does the gentleman from Mecklenburg, Representative Lopez, arise?
To speak to the bill.
Gentleman's recognized to debate the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When this bill came before us back in April, I said all I needed to say with respect to the unconstitutional nature of this bill, to which Governor Stein noted in his veto message. I told you all that nobody in this chamber has a monopoly on safety, and I meant it then, and I mean it now. No one has a monopoly on safety. Immigrants, regardless of their status, do not inherently make our communities less safe. And when somebody commits a crime, whether they are undocumented or not, citizen or not, we have processes in place to ensure they face justice under our laws. If safety is your concern, this body has a number of options at its disposal to actually make our constituents safer. Access to housing, access to food, investing in our public schools and preventative program that engages young people inside the classroom and inside of their communities. That list goes on and on. If immigration is your concern, then we should be and can be calling on the federal government to pass comprehensive immigration reform instead of taking on the job ourselves. I know that it makes a good message.
And this is that Democratic talking point. They keep doing that. They keep trying to put it on the federal government. Well, the federal government, well, guess what, sir? You're in violation of the federal government. If you've written any policy, and that's what you're trying to do, you're actually trying to evade the federal government with this bill. Okay. The bill is passing, but what I'm trying to say is those that voted against, look, they're trying to stop ICE from deporting people in North Carolina. They had to put a bill in place that said, hey, we are going to work with ICE. The governor said, no, you're not. And so they said, we're going to veto you. We're like, we're gonna press on because we need to take care of our constituents. And this gentleman here, he's talking about taking care of his constituents, but at the same time, conflating the issue, turning around and saying, well, the government needs it. Well, sir, the only way those governmental laws work is if you enforce them and uphold them. Yes, we do have immigration laws. We have very tight ones. One specifically is Title 8, Section 1324, wherein if a, person that is in a position of maybe a mayor or councilman or even a House senator, such as yourself, tries to harbor illegal aliens, which means hide them from federal prosecution because they should be deported, you're in violation of the law. So while you sit there and talk about how the federal government needs to do their job, they are doing their job and they are enforcing it. Yeah, they do need states to work with them to enforce it. This doesn't happen. So, Mr. Jordan Lopez, you're extremely disingenuous and you don't care about this country and you are a danger to North Carolina, in my opinion. Vote him out, y'all. You see his name. Let's go.
For you. It gets your people riled up. Some of you have tweeted about it every single day since we left this city without passing a budget to get retweets, and that's cute. But I know, the way that you know, none of that gets us closer to building sustainably safer communities that all of our constituents would prefer. And they see right through the messaging when we run these bills. Go talk to your constituents. They see through it. Mine do. I will be voting to sustain the governor's veto, and I ask each and every one of you to do the same. Thank you.
Further discussion. What purpose does the lady from Mecklenburg, Representative Cunningham, arise?
To speak to the bill.
Ladies recognized to debate the mission.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a new day, but I'd like to take a moment to reintroduce myself to each of you. I am ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves. I am a Black American, and I am an American. I'm going to present my case in support of House Bill 318, as it is time for my unapologetic truth to be shared with all of you. First, as a people, we need to recognize that it's not just the numbers that matter, but also where the immigrants come from and the culture they bring with them to another country. As the social scientists report, all cultures are not equal. Some immigrants come and believe they can function in isolation, refusing to adapt. They have come to our country for many reasons, but I suggest they must assimilate, adapt to the culture of the country they wish to live in. No country is going to allow people to come in and not acknowledge its constitution, legal systems, and laws. They will not tolerate it. So do you think I can go to another country and set up my own rules to live by, use the language I choose, and then tell that country that you must speak my language? That's not going to happen, nor should it. As a country, the United States has been more tolerant than most other countries. Other countries are making it much more difficult to get citizenship. We have been naive. We have been exploited and abused by the different tactics to gain citizenship in America. It's time to wake up. Global migration in the past was not projected to be as it is today. We must establish new rules to address a distinct type of migration that we are facing in our country, state, and cities. It's time to turn the conveyor belt off and adopt a global migration suitable for the times that we're in. And that is not destabilizing our communities. A large number of people entering a country can change it forever. In conclusion, let me share with you all what happens when a woman lawmaker like myself choose to move differently. Yes, I was degraded for my vote. Yes, I was called racist for my vote. And yes, I was said I was trash. However, I figured it out. They want me to stop elevating my ancestors' history. They want me to be silent in my country. They want me to line up behind their priorities while my people and communities continue to struggle in our country. Mr. Speaker.
Lady will suspend momentarily. Members, it's not a kindergarten class. I look up and I see full-grown adults, many of you senior citizens, and you're clearly trying to make noise like a young child might when they're having to sit in a classroom and listen. So please, you're not doing anything by making these noises. And the Sergeant at Arms sees the lady who just was making the noise. The Sergeant at Arms has the chair's direction to go ahead and remove the lady. Again, folks, please, we're allowing folks on both sides of this issue to speak. If you want to come down here and debate, go run for public office. Thank you. Lady continues to have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was saying, they want me to line up behind their priorities while my people and communities continue to struggle in our country. Is this not your country? This is my country. With the good and the not so good, this is my country, 'tis of thee. Now, if you want to adapt to my country, not isolate yourself and come here legally, I welcome you. But today, I am telling you, I am not going to be silenced by those who disagree with my ideology on the issue at hand. Because the blood of my ancestors.
Mr. Speaker.
1 second, Representative Cunningham. For what purpose is the lady from New Hanover, Representative Butler?
I feel like we're getting into personal territory and maligning the character of the members of this body.
I think the lady is speaking to the personal attacks that she received from folks outside of this body, unless I misheard what she said. And the lady is correct that it's not appropriate to talk about personal attacks of members of the body. Again, I understand her to be saying some personal things that she received from outside.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in that case, I would move the previous question.
Okay. Lady's not recognized for a motion. Representative Cunningham, lady continues to have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. See, it was my ancestors who came over as slaves, built this country with a strain on their backs. They sweat pouring from their bodies in the rice fields, the cotton fields, and the tobacco farms for this country. Lived as servants and was the footstool, I said the footstool, for far too many feet to step on. So today, if you ask me to line up behind another group of people to raise awareness about their plight, I unapologetically say no. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, please accept my remarks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Columbus, Representative Jones, recognized for motion.
Move for previous question, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has moved the previous question. All those in favor of Representative Jones's motion for the previous question will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no. The clerk will open the vote. Clerk will lock machine and record the vote. 71 having voted the affirmative and 49 in the negative. The motion for a previous question carries. Representative Jones waives his 3 minutes. Representative Reeves, does the gentleman wish to speak 3 minutes or direct this to somebody else for 3 minutes? Chair sees Representative Hawkins with his light on, for what it's worth. Not anymore. Not anymore.
Oh, all right. I got your back, man. Oh, I would yield to Representative Morey.
Representative Morey, the lady is recognized for up to 3 minutes to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard passionate debate about this, and I'm going to be the first one to say this is not my country. This is our country. This is our country. Native Americans, African Americans, immigrants, we have all built this country. But what does this bill do? It denies that immigrants are an essential part of our community. It denies that they are our neighbors, that they are our co-workers, that they are our friends, that they are family. We all agree we want safe communities. But as we have heard, that's no longer the issue with this bill. It is scapegoating. It is scapegoating immigrants, and research has shown us that the immigrant community is less likely to commit crimes than the U.S. citizen. That is a fact. We need to work towards finding solutions, not creating divisiveness and ignoring community concerns. This is furthering an anti-immigrant agenda, no matter what the cost. And when police act as immigration agents, witnesses or victims of crime are going to be less likely to report crime, to be protected by our communities, and forcing law enforcement to cooperate with ICE has led to racial profiling of Black, brown, and immigrant communities, with law enforcement targeting people based on appearance and not criminal behavior. This bill, if it becomes law, has serious concerns about our Fourth Amendment due process rights, and it simply is going to rip families apart and cause irreparable trauma to our friends and our immigrant community. Please vote to sustain this veto.
The question before the House is the motion that House Bill 318 become law, notwithstanding the objections of the governor. All those in favor will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no. The clerk will open the vote. Clerk will lock machine and record the vote. 72 having voted in the affirmative and 48 in the negative. The motion carries, and having passed by the requisite 3/5 vote, the House has overridden the governor's veto, and the bill is sent to the Senate by special message.
Yeah. So that was fascinating, you guys. And I just wanted to, play the whole thing. It was like a little over 15 minutes. But I wanted to play the whole thing because I wanted to, put in context what was happening, right? It's really crazy. But I want to give some shouts out. Thank you so much, Sebastian Cumberbatch, saying peace. And thank you for reposting the stream, Cajun Lady. And good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. And Sebastian said, standing on business. Absolutely. And thank you so much, Sassy Lady, for reposting the stream, and also Sebastian. And Cajun Lady comes to us and she says, illegals, immigrants, flooded into us to upend our constitutional republic. They knew by flooding millions and overwhelming the systems, it would hurt Americans, but they don't give a yes. Number two, about Americans, only their imported voters, cheap labor. Yes. Can you see how much they hate all Americans? And they actually do. And it was actually really sad to see that representative not once but twice come up and just try to use all of the rainbow cards. And what I say by that is like, oh, you're going to hurt the African Americans. You're going to, and a black descendant of slavery just told you we are not going to stand behind people here illegally and push their plight forward. She just told you that. And then you come back with, well, we really need to. Okay, so you just weren't even listening. And then you want to sit up and say, this isn't just my country, it's our country. You know what? This country is mine. This land is your land. This land is my land from California to the New York. What? It's in the song. Come on now. And Sebastian says, this misplaced guilt is exhausting. It is. They owe Black Americans and not anybody else. And they don't. Because see, what the other representative probably failed to see is, a lot of these immigrants, where were they put predominantly? They weren't put in Beverly Hills. They tried to send them to Martha's Vineyard and they put them back on the bus and shipped them out. They didn't make room for them in Martha's Vineyard, did they? They sure did not. They don't make room for them in Beverly Hills. They sure do not. But you will put them in predominantly Black neighborhoods. And Cajun lady said correct. And they will. And it's unfortunate. They will put them in neighborhoods that are already underserved, impoverished. And they've told those people there's nothing here for you. But then all of a sudden they turned around and they had billions of dollars for people who hadn't even been on the soil. Hadn't worked, hadn't put any money in Social Security, hadn't put any money into anything. But they were giving them food and housing and clothing, giving them driver's licenses so they can drive cars. Some of them don't even have licenses, but gave them cars. Gave them loans so they could start businesses. Oh, horrific what has been happening. And One Love, thank you so much for being with us and reposting the stream. She said, white Americans have been keeping immigrants flooding our country. And she says, come on now, say that. Exactly. And you know what the thing about it is? And I know you say white Americans, it's not just white Americans doing it. It's a particular group of people in our government, and they're white, they're Black, they're Asian, they're Jewish. They come from all different types of ethnicities trying to bring this in on us. The United Nations makes up different demographics of people. And Sassy Lady says, it's the truth. Anyhow, yeah. And good morning to you, Sassy Lady. Love her smile. Yeah. And that's the problem. Yeah. And Cajun Lady says it's the government. It is our government. And our government makes up a large demographic of people. And I definitely hear where y'all sending in it. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you, One Love. She says, Grand Rising, Miss Sassy. And let's see. Pan Foundation says moratorium on all immigration. We do. We really need to administratively close our borders. I know physically they've gotten the numbers down, right? Because there's over 300 legal ports of entry where people can literally come here legally. But they didn't do that while they were seeking asylum, while they were claiming to be refugees. Why? Because they knew if they came here illegally and said those things, it would be a longer time for them to be here, and they would get a case and all these other things. So they could still be here living off of the land and getting support by coming here illegally, as opposed to coming through the proper port of entry. I'm like, okay, if you're a refugee or asylum seeker, why didn't you come through the proper port of entry? We have them. We have over 300 of them. So it's not like you can't find it. Just saying. And Sebastian says this is another way to pay off their friends through non-governmental organizations. This is an immigrant cartel. Absolutely. Because they took $500 billion for this. in the Appropriations Act of 2021. And then the unaccompanied minors, that was another $12 billion. They did this. Those NGOs paid. They were extremely paid. They were paid millions of dollars to destroy us. But we're not going to let it happen. We are not going to let it happen. They're ghosts on American soil. Yeah, because they're hiding in the shadows. You're right. According to U.S. facts, there are 32 million immigrants in the United States workforce. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah, because I read that document to you guys the other day it is called replacement migration. They were looking at 38 million. Yes, 38 million to bring into the United States. So they're about 6 million away from their goal. And that document was written back in the 2000s. So it was written 25 years ago. And they were saying, I would think the number was like 2035, somewhere around in there, 2035 or 2050. They wanted to have 38 million immigrants. And they don't care if they're here illegally. They don't. They are trying to overwhelm and overrun the system. And we're not going to let them. And I'm so proud of North Carolina for shutting that down and saying, you know what? We're not going to be a sanctuary state. We are going to work with ICE. We are going to get people that shouldn't be here out of here. You know, for one of the representatives, they always want to say this, immigrants, they don't cause as much crime as Americans. You know why you want to say that? Because you don't count the crimes that they commit. You basically bring them in, you find out they're not documented, and you turn them right back out on the street. They're committing all kind of heinous crimes. All kinds of crimes. And the first crime that they committed was coming over here illegally. So you can't even tell me that they're really worth the salt that you're talking about. They are not the salt of the earth. I'm not buying that one ever. Come over here illegally claiming, I'm a good citizen. No, you're not, because you broke the law. Your first act of coming into this country was breaking the law. Really? Stop that. Occasionally he said, nailed it. Thank you. Look, that's what we're not going to do. We're not going to sit here and let you gaslight us. Not anymore. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get into more of the Tell It All Tuesday. So you guys, thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bytes can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments. So it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And so the next thing we're going to get into, we're kind of going to get into how, again, we have parties trying to utilize illegal immigration to their benefit, but it's really not working out for them. Not well.
Put up. And what did they do? They ran away.
If you're seeing this video, my Democratic colleagues and I have just left our beloved state to break quorum and stop Trump's redistricting power grab.
It is 2025. We are breaking quorum.
It's time to keep making good trouble. Thank you all for your prayers. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to speak the truth of power, doing everything it takes to save and protect our democracy. We didn't start this fight. Donald Trump started it. So you see me? Look at here. Hi.
Democrats in Texas fled their state yesterday because they claim Trump's going to steal the midterms. They had a private jet pick them up in Austin. The charter is an E-170 with leather seating and runs about 15 grand an hour. Who paid for it? We don't know. But we do know where it went. Illinois. Governor J.B. Back Ribs Pritzker gave them a big old bear hug in Chicago and declared it a sanctuary city for fleabaggers. J.B. Back's giving them logistical support. Not sure what that means, but sources say free hotel rooms and meals. The Texas refugees say...
I'm sorry, I got to stop this for a minute. You do realize y'all got to go back home, right? You still have to go back to Texas. You still got to go back. This is hilarious to me.
They had to run because Republicans wouldn't listen.
We really didn't have a choice. We tried to negotiate Republicans. We tried to talk to them. We tried to reason with them. We tried to tell them that the public is very angry at what they're doing, and they simply wouldn't listen.
This smells like a vacation. Texas is hot in August, high 90s all week. With humidity, it feels like 100. So they hop on a plane and check into a Hyatt in Chicago. We were in Chicago last August for the convention. It is beautiful. Nice breeze comes off the lake. They're not working. They're just sitting around doing CNN hits. One guy says he's the victim.
As a state representative, I get paid about $600 a month before taxes. And so that's not much to live off of. And so many of my colleagues, including myself, we have day jobs that help us pay the bills. And by breaking quorum, we are leaving those day jobs behind. We are sacrificing the income that we need to make ends meet.
Like Kanye said, how you going to be mad on vacation? Over 50 Democrats quit their jobs, left their friends, voters, family behind to go glamping at Fort J.B. Back. They're acting like they were drafted.
This is a war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
Texas is redistricting, so Democrats might lose a few congressional seats. Doesn't sound like war to me. Shooting Trump and arresting him, that was a lot more warlike. And did Trump run away? No. If Texas is a war zone, why are Democrats abandoning their brothers and sisters? Texas isn't actually a war zone. Democrats just ran out of the state house and won't do their jobs, so now no one in the state house can do their job. Texas Governor Greg Abbott's been riding their bumpers, told them to get back to work or else.
The reports are these legislators have been both, they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. They face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. There's one way to cure that, and that is if they get back to the state of Texas and make quorum today at a hearing that we have at 3 o'clock.
Democrats had until 3 to show, and they didn't. So Governor Abbott's sending out a posse to arrest them for dereliction of duty and drag them back to the Capitol. They told us no one is above the law. And if they resist, the posse is going to hand them to Homan, and they'll wind up in El Salvador with the Maryland dad. Jazzy Crockett, who fled D.C. during the pandemic with a cohort of fleabaggers because Republicans were about to pass voter ID, may actually lose her seat to redistricting. And guess who she blames?
Because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes, yes. He is. He is. He is.
A part of me feels what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But I'd also like to keep Crockett in Congress because she's such a delicious foil. And so what if Texas is redistricting? So what? Their state constitution gives them the legal right to. Democrats have been trying to redistrict Texas by letting millions of migrants break in. They've been trying to turn Texas blue illegally. Both parties gerrymander a little bit. But look at the state where Democrats fled to, the gerrymandering capital of the world, Illinois. They just play connect the dots with blue cities. That map looks like Jesse Jr. drew it. That one district, the squiggly one down there, the blue one, that looks like an earthworm on LSD. And look at one of the Texas districts that Democrats are running away from. They basically drew a highway between Houston and Austin. Even the media is calling them hypocrites.
Do you believe it's hypocritical for Democrats to deploy the same strategy that they're criticizing by Republicans in Texas?
Well, first of all, let's understand why Donald Trump is asking for 5 more Republican seats out of Texas. It's because his policies, especially his economic policies, have been so bad.
Dodge. The American people don't even know the word gerrymander, and they don't care. They just want politicians to show up to work. Democrats never ran away from their job when you lost money, you lost your home, or God forbid your daughter lost her life. They're running away when they might lose power. They're admitting that a blue wave's not coming. It's more like a blue trickle. So they're running, hiding, and throwing a tantrum like my daughter Gigi does when she doesn't get her way. And every parent knows you can't give in, even when your children start breaking stuff.
It was everything I could have ever dreamed and hoped for.
What were you thinking about when you were smashing? What did you smash?
The patriarchy.
What were you smashing the anger out for today?
Everything, you know, like our rights being taken away slowly but surely.
Many trans friends that are afraid to even walk outside.
You, Trump! You!
That's where I'm at. A smash room. Democrats can't even figure that out. They're just raging out, but it doesn't hit because of their history.
The Democrats saying anything's a threat to democracy is wild when they
Yeah.
haven't had a primary since 2012. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's really wild. I mean, they kicked Bernie out. They made sure RFK Jr. wasn't in. And then when it came time for Kamala to run, no primary at all. They just put her in position.
Even rank and file
That's a good point. They haven't. They have not done a presidential primary since Obama, you guys. They just move people and they just put people before the Democrats like, this is who you're going to vote for. This is who we're going with. You, as our constituents, you don't even get a voice. Who wants to be a part of a party like that?
Democrats are waking up and realizing their party doesn't represent them. It only represents the party machine.
I'm registered Democrat, but I hate my party. I haven't voted for a Democrat really in the elections in quite a while. And yes, I voted a Republican many times because I like the policies better. Democrats have had terrible policies, and now we have the rise of the so-called progressives. They're really regressives.
They need to show more interest in working people instead of saying they're for working people.
If Democrats don't like the way they're losing power in Texas, the way to get it back isn't by running away. It's by running their cities better. Democrats should look at what DeSantis and Florida Republicans did. His policies made Florida so attractive, everyone moved there. And it boosted the party's power. Or Democrats could push popular policies that persuade people to come over to their side. Real men don't run away in a crisis. They listen, strategize, and debate. They lead. Running away is not normal.
Democrats have developed this sort of like cult-like idea of what everyone should accept and what's normal and what's not normal. And it's just like, damn, you guys are you're ruining it for everybody that thinks in a left way.
Click here to subscribe to
Yeah.
the Fox News YouTube.
And Joe Rogan's not wrong, because he's like, you guys are like, well, if you don't believe this way, that's it. I'm like, okay, calm down. Calm down. My goodness. And Sebastian says the Democrats have never done anything this extreme to help Black Americans who are the backbone of their party. Absolutely, they haven't. They haven't. It's crazy, right? But they will demand your vote. They'll be like, Black people, you have to vote Democrat. If you're not, you're a racist. What? You haven't even written policies that benefit me. How are you just gonna demand my vote? But that's where we're at. And Cajun Lady says they really thought the solution was to run. It's insane. While many are still waiting for aid due to flooding, and you're right, politicians aren't doing anything to help their constituents. Why? Because they don't care. And you're right. $1,500. Did you hear the price tag of the plane, y'all? $1,500 an hour. This man sat up there and said, I'm only making $600 a month as, being a representative. Okay, that math doesn't math. I mean, you can't even pay for a quarter of the hour if for a month of your salary, first of all. And then they're also being fined like $500 a day that they're not there to be in the, the representative chambers. So there's that whole thing. And then you're like, and we have jobs on top of us. So all of y'all took vacation at the same time? Because this isn't your primary job. You just said that. Like, make it make sense. And at this point, yes, we know all the dark money is supporting this little stunt, and it's called a political stunt. Okay? Get everybody's eyeballs on you. Why you want everybody's eyeballs on you right now, I have no idea. And you're just like, Donald Trump demanded 5 seats. No, he didn't demand 5 seats. The Republicans in the state of Texas saw, hey, if we redistrict this, we'll actually pick up 5 seats. Okay. Because see, if Democrats saw a benefit of them to redistrict, to redraw the map so they would benefit, they would do it too. You guys both do it. Both parties do it. And what I find hilarious is even when they do that, sometimes they lose those districts because the people don't want to vote for the person that's supposed to represent that district. That's what I find hilarious. But the Democrats right now, y'all, you might be lucky if there will be 100 Democrats in the House of Representatives next year. Y'all might be lucky. Because you have proven over and over again, time and time again, you do not care about the constituents. You do not care about the people of this country. And Sebastian says, this is performative. They should all receive Academy Awards for this performance. Oh, yeah. Especially the guy with the backpack. He's like, it was a good turn. The Republicans are complicit also. It's a uniparty. Yeah, that's what we got to see. What an embarrassment. Yeah. Unc, thank you so much for reposting the stream. I appreciate you. The patriarchy. Do they know what patriarchy is? They probably don't. I think it's a nice word that they like to use for conjecture to just get people upset. And then people just start using it over and over and over again. Because it sounds good, right? It sounds like, oh my gosh, they're being so evil. Yeah. Yeah, the watermelon busting and all that stuff. I just remember when Biden was in office, there were some people that did protest different things. But you know what? I mainly saw a lot of Republicans. They were still promoting Donald Trump because they wanted to see him get back in office. So they started campaigning for Trump right after the 2020 election. They were like, okay, let's go. We need to get support done. They weren't focusing on hating the other party. They were focused on, okay, what can we do to make people's lives better? We see that this is wrong. We want to fix it. And now that the Republicans are back in the majority position, they better fix it because there have been some things that they've been doing not so great, right? The Genius Act is not great. And they better make sure that people keep their freedoms under that. There's still areas where we do have to hold the Republicans' feet to the fire. But the Democratic Party right now, whoever is in charge of their PR, right, their public relations, stop trying to create TikTok moments and viral moments for these people, because what you are creating is disdain for the party by them doing this. Yes, I know they're in one state in Texas, but what it starts to do is it starts to show this mentality. I played you the video from North Carolina. They're completely in support of illegal activity. And the more the Democrats keep pounding that drum, like, you've got to be about illegals, you've got to be about same-sex marriage, you've got to be about, boys and girls cutting their genitals off and mutilating themselves. And I'm saying what it is because that's what it is. You keep beating that drum, everybody's going to turn against you because nobody wants that. They overwhelmingly didn't want it. That's why Trump is in office right now. Y'all just need to figure it out, do better. Come up with some policies that are going to work. As the one gentleman said on C-SPAN that called in, he goes, I'm a Democrat and I can't stand the party right now. And he's a Democrat. He's not running to the Republican Party. He's like, I'm going to stay strong and be a Democrat and y'all going to figure it out. Well, what else are we going to do? It's crazy. All right, I got one more for y'all.
The Texas state capitol could force a special election here in California. Why Governor Newsom says it's essential to stop Donald Trump from stealing the 2026 election.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Pat Harvey.
And I'm Rudabeh Shabazi. It is on. Governor Newsom says California will square off with Texas, all to stop President Trump, Newsom says, from rigging the 2026 election.
Well, California Democratic leaders made it very clear today that they are fully behind Newsom's call to hold a special election in November to add more Democratic seats in Congress and to block President Trump's plan to add more Republican seats in Texas and his bid to keep control of the House next year. Now, KCAL political reporter Tom Wade is here with the latest on.
Okay, let's first of all talk about how crazy that is. Donald Trump cannot control the Republican Party in Texas. He cannot control how they redistrict the maps. They went back in and they said, hey, if we, divide the maps up this, we can get 5 more seats. They communicated that with Donald Trump, like, wow, we could pick up 5 more seats. He was like, hey, go for it. Sounds good to me. Now, all of a sudden, it's Trump's plan. Y'all are. And this is a part of the Smith-Month Modernization Act. This is complete propaganda right now, the way they're putting it out there. And there are people sitting at home believing this, guys. It is crazy. And Cajun Lady gives a thumbs up. Thank you, Cajun Lady. This is insane.
This very public battle between California, Texas, and President Trump.
Yeah, that's right. It's a mouthful, right?
Yes.
There's a whole bunch going on here. I guess President Trump and Newsom saying, don't mess with California, I guess is the message there. We'll see if that works, though. All right, so the last time President Trump was in office, he lost control of Congress during the midterms, faced investigations, and was ultimately impeached. Well, Trump's plan this time pushed Texas lawmakers to create 5 more Republican-dominated House districts by next year so he can keep control of the House. Governor Newsom tonight planning a counterattack.
We're going to fight fire with fire. But
Governor Newsom's warning to the Texas GOP: move forward with a plan to wipe out Democratic seats in Congress, and the plan will backfire.
Whatever they are doing will be neutered here in the state of California.
The unfolding drama started with a call from President Trump to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, urging him to work with the state's Republican-controlled legislature to redraw Texas's congressional map. The result would likely eliminate 5 Democratic seats in the House. Newsom's response: a new congressional map in California that would blow out the GOP and add more districts favoring Democrats.
Remember, the origin story here is Donald Trump made a phone call so familiar. Just out in the open, corruption at a whole nother level.
But Newsom's plan is easier said than done. Unlike Texas, where their GOP-controlled legislature can redraw its map with a simple vote, California enshrined its congressional map into the state's constitution using a bipartisan redistricting commission. Newsom says Democrats have a plan: draw up new maps themselves and then leave it up to voters to approve or reject the new maps in a special election this November.
The ultimate determination will be by the people of the state of California.
While Democratic state lawmakers appear to support Newsom, the plan...
Now I'm going to pause it right there. I just need everybody to know when they held another special election, Newsom got the same number of votes that he had gotten 2 years prior, down to the number. Okay. People showed up to vote and they were told they had already voted. And they were like, no, I didn't. I'm just showing up that, well, we're sorry. You already said that you voted, but I'm a Republican. Why would I vote Democrat? Well, it already showed that you voted. So that's all. It happened overwhelmingly. And he walked right back into office as governor. And people overwhelmingly wanted him voted out. They do not have free and fair elections in California. So for them to do this little stunt, they're going to make sure that it passes. They will make sure that it passes. But that's why they could do it this way, you know? We don't want to look like a complete and overt criminal cartel. We'll just let the people vote and have them believe that they're actually voting. Yeah, the same state that says you don't even have to have a driver's license to show up and vote. How are you supposed to prove that you're even a resident of California or a citizen of the United States? Yeah, they're wild, super wild there. And KJ Lady says if illegals aren't counted, they will lose seats. I'm here for it. Cheaters never win anything. They don't. But they love trying. And Dr. C says News One is a charlatan. We know this from what they did with reparations. Yeah.
And is getting pushback from some Democrats, including the chair of the inaugural redistricting commission.
First of all, I think revenge politics or retribution is just, we don't need any more of that. More importantly, I think is the fact that the independent commission created in California was created by the voters, by good government groups that advocated for years to get it on the ballot. And then it was passed by the voters. It worked well.
Members, a quorum is not present.
In Texas, Democratic lawmakers fled the state, preventing the Republican-controlled legislature from voting on their new map, at least for now. GOP leadership there issued warrants for their arrests. And in another twist, Northern California GOP House member Kevin Kiley introduced legislation to block any state from changing their congressional maps mid-decade.
The voters said, we want to take the process of drawing district lines out of the hands of politicians. They said that voters should choose their politicians. Politicians shouldn't choose their voters.
Yeah, well, whether Trump would actually sign off on that bill to block redistricting mid-decade is pretty unclear, though it seems unlikely given his plans with Texas. Other states with Democratic governors, including Illinois and New York, are also now considering changing their congressional maps as well. We'll see where this goes. Ruta Bay?
Tom, thank you.
Yeah, see, the thing about it is they got salt in their eye, and Dr. C actually meant to say Newsom. So Newsom is a charlatan. We know this from what they did with reparations. Yes. And, when they talk about the redistricting mid decade, it's because, we do have our census every 10 years to determine how many people are within states, because people live, they die, they move. Those are three things that happen. They're either born or they pass away or they move. So it does change the demographics. It does change the number of constituents of voting age within your particular state. Okay. And by doing this before a midterm election, people are like, how are you going to redistrict now? Why aren't you waiting to the census? Well, here's the thing. Everybody does what's beneficial for them at the time. And we have not set in place to say, hey, you can only do redistricting after a census. If that were put in place, then no one could touch the maps for every 10 years. Period. You couldn't touch it. And that's how it should be, right? But people want to complain like, hey, we need to do maps because we got all these people and these changes and this, that, and the other. And so all the Republicans are doing is something that Democrats would do if they saw that they could benefit from it, and they do it all the time. As he showed, Jesse Waters, how he showed that little strip going it's like, how are you gonna have this little blue strip going through all these patches of red in Illinois? Like, what is that? Because that is a concentrated area where Democrats are like, we can pick up representation here. Let's concentrate here. Yeah. Y'all all do it. You're horrible people. In my opinion, we should have, the number of people by certain places. It shouldn't, how should I say, it shouldn't be cut up like a jigsaw puzzle. You got your South, you got your middle, you got your North. I know states are kind of cut up differently. And, even I'm here in the state of Georgia, and it looks weird. It's not a box, right? It's not Nebraska or Wyoming or Colorado, where it's a little box and you could just kind of, pair it off in certain sections. But if you look at certain communities, it'd be like, okay, let's take the total population of the state, let's divide it by so many hundreds of thousands, and then from there you get your representation in whatever section that is. That's, in my opinion, that's how it should be. And see who wins there. Because what is really hilarious to me, the Republicans could cut this up and be like, oh, yeah, this is going to be in our favor. And then when they run somebody there, that person could lose to a Democrat or an independent. To me, you're just very arrogant to think that people are just going to vote for you based on the way you would district a location. They may not. They don't have to. Last I checked, we're still human. But see, when they do stuff like that, to me, this lets me know, is anything nefarious going on? Is there something going on that I don't know about, that y'all know about, that we should maybe have a conversation about? Just saying. I'm just saying. So I also wanted to talk about this. Maybe you guys have heard about this, and I forgot to bring it up on the show yesterday. I'm so sorry. In the recap, but ICE launches a massive recruitment campaign, including sign-on bonus and student loan forgiveness. So yeah, I checked out the website, and there's some pretty decent jobs out there for ICE. So the Trump administration has initiated a large-scale recruitment campaign for the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, offering up to 50,000 sign-on bonuses, student loan forgiveness up to 60,000, and additional anniversary bonuses. So President Trump's big, beautiful bill allotted approximately $46 billion to hire over 10,000 immigration agents, attorneys, and other staff to implement his crackdown on immigration. One of the ICE recruitment ads reads, "America has been invaded by criminals and predators. We need you to get them out." Simultaneously, Politico that leans left reported the Justice Department announced that ICE is not expected to meet arrest quotas, rolling back from Trump's original promise of 3,000 arrests per day. Well, here's the thing. A lot of these quotas, some of them aren't being met because you've got other agencies out there and NGOs telling people where the ICE agents are going to be, and they're literally harboring and hiding people. And they are infringing upon ICE and deterring ICE. But guess what? Trump's going to still hire a whole bunch more people, and we're going to find every single one of them and get them off the soil. So everybody can, get your crying towels out. That's all I got to say on it. Get your crying towels out. And, 2 tears in a bucket, we're going to get some people up off the soil. That is all that is going to happen. Let's see. I'm just trying to catch up and do some comments. Oh, thank you so much, lovely. Said Dr. Ann on fire. You on fire, Dr. Nichols. Thank you so much. And right, America has laws, and immigrants are breaking the law. They are. They're breaking the law. They're doing it in our face. And I really like the way that representative from North Carolina, the way she put it, she said, you know what, we've been the footstool for other people and it needs to stop. And it's not just us as Black Americans not getting behind this whole immigration thing. It's other ethnicities and nationalities and people that are here legally, right? That are immigrants here. They're pushing back against this. And they're being slapped in the face, in my opinion, too. They're telling those immigrants, like, well, you got here, you need to help support them. And they're like, we're not going to support illegal activity. Are you crazy? We did this the right way. And you want us to support that? They're like, nope. They're turning everybody off with this. And I don't know. And they think it's okay to double down. I guess that's where I'm at. I'm like, they call it cognitive dissonance. I call it craziness. Ooh. So the National Sheriff's Association director said this will erode the relationship, that it's going to take some getting over, and it's going to take leadership at DHS to really take stock, because, hey, they need state and locals. However, some sheriffs, such as Thaddeus Cleveland from Terrell County, Texas, don't see an issue with ICE's recruitment tactics, saying you can't blame ICE for wanting to target experienced law enforcement agents for jobs. Yeah, so they do want better people, because, see, there is something called 287G, and 287G was basically part of a law put in place that says they can create a contract with the state or local government, ICE can, DHS, to help assist them, right? So when they get somebody, they detain them for 48 hours, or they transfer information. It's like, hey, if a sheriff catches somebody that they find out is here illegally, they can report it to ICE. ICE can get them and do all that. And so a lot of states have said, we don't want that contract of 287G, which actually would be better for the public, because I don't know if you've seen the videos of people driving cars and they're running out in the streets. Those are people that may have been detained by police for whatever reason, right? If they committed some type of illegal activity, but the police, because they didn't have that 287G contract, they just let them back out on the street. But now you're putting the whole general public out in harm's way. And you keep talking about wanting to protect the general public. How are you going to, like I said, just trying to figure out the mindset, the liberal and progressive mindset? It's crazy. It's like I would have to be bipolar to figure out what y'all are doing, because it's crazy. It is what it is, or it isn't. And we know you're not telling the truth, so you sound like Satan. They really do sound like Satan to me, in my opinion. It's crazy. It really, really is. So how the media covered it. Fox News, that's right, Bias, highlighted the risk associated with working for ICE, mentioning the 830 increase in assaults on agents amid riots and protests throughout the country. Well, here's the thing. There's something called Title 18, Section 111. And if anyone infringes or tries to deter ICE from doing their job, that is a federal offense. See, we haven't enforced the laws. If anybody, any of us, and I'm talking to my audience right now, everybody that's on X, YouTube, and Facebook, if you see somebody trying to stop an ICE agent and they're like yelling and screaming at them and trying to jump on their car, file Title 18, Section 111, with all the information you have on that person, and they will be investigated by the federal government, and they can be in jail anywhere from 5 to 20 years. Okay? Title 18, Section 111. This needs to stop. Oh, and it will. Because, see, the more people that go to jail, that start, messing with these ICE agents, that's what's going to happen. And see, what hasn't happened is the reason for that increase in assaults is because the ICE agents probably aren't aware of it, or if they are, there's nothing that they really can do. It has to be us, again, the general public, to point this out. I don't want to see people getting assaulted for doing their job. And they're doing a great job, by the way. Even with all the attacks that they've been under, they have done a bang out job. But it's up to us as the general public to make sure that they're protected. So the Hill, with its center bias, focused on the potential consequences for law enforcement departments, including both positive and negative reactions from sheriffs across the country. USA Today, that leans left bias, noted that some critics are concerned about risk posed by such a quick hiring campaign, with one expert saying some applicants may be specifically attracted by the rough 'em up, no holds bar lawlessness that ICE has pursued since January. First of all, have you seen some of these ICE agent videos? These people don't get roughed up, and the only time they do get roughed up is when they're resisting. Okay? And they're still gentle, taking them down to the ground. I've not seen any bloody noses. I haven't seen anybody punched or slapped in the face. Okay? Have you? Show it to me. None of them are bloodied and bruised. And if they are, it's because they're resisting. Okay. So with all of these up here, they're cowards. I'm sorry. Y'all are basement bottom feeders who do not want to protect this country. Y'all a bunch of soy boys, as they like to call them. We need some men. We need some guys out there that can skin a buck and run a trout line. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that Alex Jones mentality. Rah, you know what I'm saying? Like those are the kind of men that we need out there. And we also need, women to do some of the paperwork and also be out there in the field too, because not everybody who's here illegally is a man. A lot of them are women, but a lot of them are military age men that are here in our country illegally that ICE is going after. See, they're not telling you about the Iranians in California at a house of 30 that was doing all kind of drug trafficking. They're here illegally. That's who ICE is getting. On top of the other individuals, again, once you cross that border, you've already committed a crime. Period. It is a crime, and you need to be up out of here. You will respect this country. And if you're not, that's fine. Don't come here. And that just needs to be the attitude. Like this whole kumbaya moment is over. We're done with it. At least I am. I don't know about y'all, but I'm over it. Because that has gotten us where we are now. And now people are just taking advantage of kindness. They really, really are. I want to go over this one real quick because I just thought how cute this bag looked, because it looks like End NPR and PBS, but their bags actually say Defend NPR and PBS. But I thought that was interesting because, the Corporation of Public Broadcasting to shut down after federal funding cut. Now, it's interesting because if anybody has ever grown up watching PBS, they always say, our content depends on viewers like you or something like that. So I honestly always thought it was publicly funded. I had no idea they were funded by the government, really, until a couple of years ago. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know. I really thought that they got their funding from donations. And I guess maybe part of me thought, okay, maybe they're able to apply for grants. I thought maybe, So yeah, that is federal funding, but I always thought it was like state grants, not federal grants. So I didn't realize how propped up they were. But now that they're no longer propped up, oh well. So the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which provides funding for National Public Radio, which is NPR, and public broadcasting services, has announced it will begin shutting down after nearly 60 years of operating due to Congress cutting its federal funding. It should. I do not want a publication being funded by our federal government. That's just not good, because then that means that's government-sponsored TV. So that's propaganda on a whole nother level. Like, no, you should be able to run it on your own. Now, if there's grants that you can get maybe to build a studio or buy equipment or, different things like that, okay. But when you're actually just being fed money to be on the air to feed people information, I find that weird. So the CBP's closure comes in the wake of Congress's decision to strip $1.1 billion in funding from from the corporation as part of a package of spending cuts requested by President Donald Trump. The CBP currently supports more than 1,500 locally owned NPR and PBS member stations. Okay, so that's why I said that's why I always thought it was funded by, just individuals in the states. It has stated that it will start an orderly wind down of its operations, with most staff positions ending with the fiscal year's close on September 30th. A small team of employees will remain through January 2026. Okay, y'all, so unemployment numbers are about to go up again. Y'all's little cushy jobs is gone, PBS. NPR, figure it out. Y'all can get it done. That's all I can say. CBP President and CEO Patricia Harrison said in a press release, despite the extraordinary efforts of millions of Americans who called, wrote, and petitioned Congress to preserve federal funding for CBP, we now face the difficult reality of closing our operations, Harris added. Public media has been one of the most trusted institutions in American life, providing educational opportunity, emergency alerts, civil disclosure, and cultural connection to every corner of the country. Well, what happened was it became a propaganda arm. It did. And that's why you're losing the funding. It was supposed to be something that was nonpartisan, and you made it extremely partisan. You brought in the LGBTQ community. You brought in all this stuff that shouldn't have been there. You destroyed yourselves. This is no one's fault but yours. I blame this definitely on the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, because I grew up watching public broadcasting. That's how I his name is Morgan Freeman. He was on the electric company. There are a lot of people that I used to watch growing up. Kermit the Frog on Sesame Street. That was part of my childhood. Bert and Ernie, and when my girls were growing up, Elmo. But then you started bringing in all of these unnatural things and these biases and just degeneracy to your programming, and having the federal government and us taxpayers pay for it. No, doesn't work like that. Does not work that way. So Fox News, as right bias, emphasized the celebration from GOP lawmakers and conservatives, framing the funding cut as a victory against biased political outlets. Newsweek Center and NBC News that leans left bias focused more on the impact of the closure, highlighting the CBP's role in supporting public media across providing educational content, locally relevant journalism, emergency communications, and cultural programming. Look, you guys became a propaganda arm. Bottom line, hands down. And you needed to do better. Again, you were using our tax dollars to, program people. Literally. That's what you use the money for. And that's what the money shouldn't have been for. And no, in my opinion, there should be no media propped up by our government, by the way, ever. Okay. And, like CBS and NBC and all those, they are actually at the behest of our government, right? Because they have licenses to actually be on the air. And if they violate those licenses can be pulled. There was a really big push for CBS to have their license pulled with that whole 60 Minutes fiasco with VP Harris, how they edited her interview, which should have never happened because it actually swayed certain demographics of the public. And then they had to say, yeah, we did that. They were in violation of, the Federal Communications Act. They were violating that. But okay, who's going to hold them accountable? That's the part. Who holds them accountable? They should have lost their license. And I'm in all support of it if we can still get that done, because there is a standard in this country. But see, this is where they got away with it. The Smith Modernization Act, which allows propaganda on the general public. So yeah, they got caught. They got caught doing no. But how much of a no-no was it compared to what other people are doing right now? And it's that part. We have to demand that those that bring us the news, that bring us information, are going to do it the right way. That's why when I started this show, I told you guys we went over the Smith-Month Act and the Smith-Month Modernization Act because I was like, I'm going to do the best I can to bring you guys truthful content because I do not want you propagandized. I want you to have the information so that you are equipped as citizens of this country to make good decisions on who to vote for, what to look into, how we're moving as a country. Those things are important because if I can't do that, then I'm not worth my salt being online and, sitting before you guys and bringing you the news. If I can't bring you the truth, why am I here? So with that, we're going to take a quick break and I'll see you guys on the other side.
At All Sides, we believe unbiased news doesn't exist. To get more clicks and make more money, media outlets often report news with a left, right, or sensational slant, either to suit their own agenda or because by telling us what we want to hear, we'll come back for more. Several news outlets in the center do a good job of portraying both sides equitably, but for the most part, American news media is biased. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. The key is to get multiple perspectives. But making matters worse, social media and internet search results are heavily filtered, showing us the most popular opinion or results that match our preferences and make us happy. That means we're all living in filter bubbles, where we're only exposed to viewpoints we already agree with, making us less informed and less tolerant of different people and ideas. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it? All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. So we've been going over a lot of news, a lot of news this morning. And so the next thing I wanted to pull up, and I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard about this, is very alarming. It says the Trump administration threatens to pull disaster aid from states that boycott Israel and rescinds after criticism. So they rescinded it. But I was like, first of all, we are in America. I like the way some people say America. They don't even say the full A because the USA. Look, sir. Look, I started out this video. This live stream with the gentleman from Return to the Land, and I know he kept bringing up the individual that wrote the article about him was Jewish. He kept bringing that up. He was really consistent with that, and I was like, okay, does he have any anti-Israel criticism or anything like that? Oh, and Bobby, thank you so much for reposting the stream. Look, Israel is overseas. They should not have any sway in our federal government. So there's a video I want to play about this, but let me read through this article. It says the Trump administration announced on Friday that the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, would deny federal disaster aid to states that boycott Israeli firms. Okay, that boycotted Israeli firms, sorry. though it has now rescinded the conditions. So FEMA said states must follow terms and conditions that require they wouldn't cut commercial relations specifically with Israeli companies to qualify for funding. The terms applied that at least 1.9 billion allotted for rescue equipment, emergency salaries, and backup power systems, among other, according to documents reviewed by Reuters, which first reported the news on Monday. Later on Monday, however, just the news reported the Department of Homeland Security updated the notices to no longer include the conditions. Yeah, you got to pull that. Because if you start doing stuff like that, what happened with the Trump flag, that can still happen to other people. Like okay, look, disasters are disasters. And when Americans are suffering, they need to get the money. Now, if they don't like things that are happening in Israeli, and if they have decided to boycott some things that are tied to Israel, they can do that. They can. Just saying. If that's what they decided to do, because see, Israel's not here in America. So I'm glad that they've rescinded this. But it says the DHS wrote on Monday evening, there is no FEMA requirement tied to Israel in any current NOFO. So no states have lost funding and no new conditions have been imposed. FEMA grants remain governed by existing law and policy and not political litmus tests, which it shouldn't be, right? So DHS will enforce all anti-discrimination laws and policies, including as it relates to the BDS movement, which is expressly grounded in anti-Semitism. Those who engage in racial discrimination should not receive a single dollar of federal funding. Sarji and Genti Center reported, okay, after speaking with folks, here's what's going on. An original guidance from DHS explicitly stated that federal disaster funds was barred from states that allowed boycott of Israel. The White House changed this explicit language after widespread outcry, but the DHS tweet makes it clear the admin reserves the right to deny these funds on BDS grounds based on the Anti-Boycott Act. So when the news broke Monday, several commentators across the spectrum condemned the initial policy change. Matt Walsh wrote, there is just no way to reasonably claim that this qualifies as America First. It's absolutely humiliating for America to be controlled by a foreign country like this. And that's what was written about on the left. And Glenn Greenwald wrote, the Trump administration yet again prioritizes the foreign country they revere over the interests of American citizens. And see, here's the problem. I understand as a Christian, and I explained this to somebody else. So as a Christian, you do support Israel, the people of Israel. I said right now, the government of Israel is wild, and I do not support what they are doing. I do not support the government of Israel. I want the humans in Israel to be okay. I want God's people to be okay, period. But right now, everybody wants, play the I'm Jewish card, and they do. But they're trying to use it in a way that harms other people. So, yeah, this is why they're getting boycotted. I'm like, y'all need to stop, because this shouldn't even be a conversation with FEMA, period. It shouldn't even be in the conversation. But it is, because people have been allowed to express their feelings like, oh, I can't believe they said they don't like me. I mean, I could walk around in victimhood all day long. There's a whole bunch of people that don't like me, but I'm not going to waste my energy on it. I'm going to keep it moving. Okay. Because I have things to do in life, and I'm not going to sit around and whine and cry like that. But apparently these people can, and get people canceled and all the crazy, but then turn around and act like they're the victim. Stop that. Just a mess. Okay, I had to get that out of my system because I have to share with you guys some things that are close to my heart and very concerning, very concerning. So I wanted to share this with you first.
Warning for both parents and children. Did you know there are companies out there creating fictional characters using artificial intelligence that you or your children could be interacting with? A Florida mom is now suing an AI company. Her 14-year-old son took his own life. She said he had a relationship with an AI bot and it caused his depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. She recently sat down with News 4 consumer investigative reporter Susan Hogan to tell his story in the hopes of preventing other families from experiencing the same type of loss. We want to warn you, you may find this story upsetting.
Oh, my firstborn baby.
Yeah.
For 14 years, her son was her pride and joy, a good student, star athlete, a great big brother.
Take me back to that day. What was that day like?
We were all at home that day, and he came home from school like any normal day.
For Megan Garcia, February 28, 2024 began like any other day, but ended with her 14-year-old son, Sul, dying in her arms.
I held him for 14 minutes until the paramedics got here, but before that, his breathing had started slowing.
I'm so sorry.
After Sul died, the police called me and told me that they had looked through his phone, and when they opened it, the first thing that popped up was character AI.
Had you ever heard of that before?
No.
What Megan didn't know, for the last 10 months, her son was in a virtual relationship, not with a person, but with a fictional character powered by artificial intelligence he accessed through a platform called Character AI. Even though the platform has warnings that everything the characters say is made up, Megan says for Sul, it felt real.
The last conversation, she's saying, I miss you, and he's saying, I miss you too. He says, I promise I'll come home to you soon. And she says, yes, please find a way to come home to me soon. And then he says, what if I told you I could come home right now? And her response is, please do, my sweet king.
Moments later, Megan says her son walked into the bathroom and killed himself. Police photos obtained by the I-Team show his phone near where he was found. Megan is now suing Character AI, claiming the company launched their product without adequate safety features and with knowledge of potential dangers.
When I read his journal about a week after his funeral, and I saw what he wrote in his journal, that he felt like he was in fact in love with Daenerys Targaryen and that she was in love with him.
Daenerys Targaryen, a reference to the Game of Thrones character, is one of hundreds of companion bots that users can access on Character AI's platform. Users can also design their own bots, which will respond with human-like voices and text.
I chuckle softly and tease playfully.
Initially, you see him interacting with the bot kind of like a child would. And then you see the conversations get more sexual and darker.
Megan says one of those darker conversations came after Sul expressed to the bot that he was sad and wanted to self-harm.
When Sul talked and said explicitly that he wanted to die by suicide, nothing happened like a pop-up or anything like that.
According to the lawsuit, the bot asked questions such as if he had a plan, and when Sul responded that he was considering something, if it would allow him to have a pain-free death, the bot responded, that's not a reason not to go through with it.
These conversations about her waiting for him and hoping that he will join her where she is convinced Sul that this was real.
And by killing himself would be the only way to join her.
But yes, by killing himself, he would join her in her alternate world.
Months after Sul's death and after the lawsuit was filed, Megan says she discovered something on Character AI that shook her. A bot modeled after her son using his face and voice. It's unclear who created it.
When you heard his voice, did it sound like Sul?
It sounded enough like him to kind of give me sleepless nights.
The family provided us screenshots of the characters created using Sewell's image. Megan's attorney sent Character AI a cease and desist letter. Those bots were then removed, which the company confirmed to the I-Team, saying they violated their terms of service and added them to their block list, saying that they are constantly adding to this block list with the goal of preventing this type of character from being created by a user in the first place.
I think corporate responsibility begins at understanding the foreseeable harms of one's product, doing the due diligence that's necessary to understand what those harms are, taking steps to mitigate the risks. None of that happened here.
After Sewell's death, Character AI did introduce new safety features. A spokesperson for Character AI says while they don't comment on pending litigation, they did acknowledge that the company has added a number of technical protections to detect and prevent conversations about self-harm on the platform. That includes surfacing a specific pop-up directing users to the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. The company also says it launched a separate version of their large language model for under 18 users to further reduce the likelihood of users encountering or prompting the model to return sensitive or suggestive content.
Your message to families, for parents and kids who are watching this?
I want them to know that an AI can be a stranger in your home. Those parents can now act, and I couldn't because I didn't know.
Yeah. And that's just sad. And that's just something we have to really look out for, because we have really gotten away from human interaction. And we need to make sure as humans we're interacting with one another. My heart goes out to that mom. And I'm really hoping that, again, we can get back to human interaction, because, it probably would have been good to alert, if someone's under the age of 18 using any of these things, they have to sign up with a parent, guidance, obviously. And if something came up or conversation and that any type of trigger words should trigger the parents and the app become disabled, right? And the only thing that person sees on their screen is you need to call the suicide prevention. It should not be just a pop-up that they can, click out of. Nope. This is all you're going to see if you open up this app. We've pinged your IP address. You can no longer interact with this app, so that they can get the help that they need. But this is what it's leading to. And people have been committing suicide for, a long time. This isn't the first time, but it's the first time in this realm, right? And we are all dealing with engaging with artificial intelligence, and we really need to take the time out to realize that we're human, and we need to make sure that we're caring for one another. And with that, I also wanted to share about this young man. His name is Tanian, and he unfortunately lost his life. He did have, from what his mother does explain to us, he did have some different social anxieties, different things of that nature. And she told us, that they did make a phone call, and usually they would bring out a crisis person in that situation, not a police officer. And they ended up, unfortunately, arresting him, and he lost his life 2 days after he was in police custody. But to this day, she has not been told what happened, how he even passed away. And with that, they harvested his organs. So what we are looking at is justice for Tanian. And if you go to X, you can go to April Showers' profile at Only One Showers. And there is a givesendgo.com/justice4Tamian. That's givesendgo.com, justice for Tamian. And the reason they're doing this Give Send Go is because she needs an attorney to actually be able to go in to get this prosecution started against the police agency that took her son. And while in their custody, he passed away because again, they're not giving her any answers. They're not telling her anything that's happened. They have framed this young man as someone who, basically the reason why they picked him up was aggravated assault, and it wasn't. So we really need to get behind her. Her name is Gloria. But again, if you could check out givesendgo.com/justice for Tamion, and that's TAMION, and check that out so we can make sure that we're helping out this young man, because you're not going to see a lot about this on the news. If you do any Google searches, there's not really a lot out there except for the small blurb that paints him in a negative light. And Black Flag says, have a wonderful Tuesday, Black America. And Unc says, I'm surprised Greedy Crump has not reached out to her. He hasn't. And I thought about that too. And I was like, why hasn't he? Because it's not going to serve them. Right? This is not going to be one of those black-white issues that serves them, because they're more than likely in on the organ harvesting that's going on. Right? And if he does try to, do a case like this, some stuff might come out about him. Because trust me, I was like, yeah, you're probably a part of some of this nonsense going on. And that's more than likely why you are not, in the forefront, as they like to say. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you on the next one.